What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to deep dive into something near and dear to my heart. Blockbuster video, baby. This is the most nostalgic thing that I think will never come back. I mean, my kid will never experience it, and I'll never experience it again in my lifetime, most likely. It was one of the best times to be alive as a kid. It was awesome. The anticipation, the disappointment you would get when your new release wasn't there. Blockbuster was awesome. Fun fact, also used to work there. Employee of the month, September 1997, October 1997. I was awesome. It's okay. Bad news is November rolled around and it was the homecoming dance at school and they wouldn't let me off, so I quit. What can you do? But we had so much fun. We're going to check this video out. It's the decline of Blockbuster. What happened? It's pretty crazy. I don't know. It's one of the saddest things I've ever seen in my entire life, unfortunately. So without further ado, let's go.
Everyone remember Blockbuster? Not
Oh,
the
yeah.
Blockbuster that's been reduced to a punchline.
PlayStation
Blockbuster
3, I
from
didn't know
back
it was
in the
out that
day,
long.
The video rental store you used to frequent. Remember
Be kind,
walking through
rewind,
the doors
baby.
and heading over to the new releases around the outer walls, recognizing some of them from the week before, and getting excited when you
Look, when I worked there, the worst shift you could work was on Monday because the new releases always came out on Tuesday, right? So on Monday, all the movie would come in and you had to sit there and open each one up, the plastic, take it off. You had to put a little piece of security tape in every single cassette because people would try to steal them. They'd walk out and the alarms would trigger. That was Mondays were the worst shift ever. You also had return day too. So morning shift on Monday was all the returns coming in from the weekend, and you spent the whole entire afternoon putting security tape on all the new releases.
saw something new, making your way around the store, methodically looking at each movie until you've reached the other end, picking up a movie you're sure
Ooh, baby, look at that hair. That's what I'm talking about.
you're going to rent, and
Glad I wasn't in the whole dating scene then. Holy cow.
one that you may put back if you see something better. Taking a minute to
This guy's got a little Inspector Gadget going on, doesn't he? Da, 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 da.
make sure you're happy with your selections, because it
Kinda
was
creepy.
a big decision back then. There was no starting
That reminds me, let me go back to this. Hang
happy
on.
with your selections, because it was a big decision.
All right, this is the drop box. Like when Blockbuster was closed or somebody was too lazy to actually walk into the door, we would have somebody. I mean, it's honestly sad that we didn't have video cameras and stuff like that on our phones back then. We'd sit on the other side. We'd have somebody down there sitting there. They'd catch it and throw the video back out the little door. People would be like, "What the hell's going on?"
Decision back then. There was no starting the movie just to see what it is and turning it off and searching for a new one. Those were your movies for the weekend.
I don't remember Blockbuster Kids.
Taking a quick look through the aisles with the old releases
Woo!
before heading to the checkout counter. Maybe you would pick up some popcorn or candy on your way, and then check
Never did that. We always stopped. There was a Little Caesars next door we would stop at.
out and paying $20 for a handful of movies and some red vines.
God, those blue shirts. I did not miss that. That's had the itch. Ugh, awful.
It wasn't all good, but I'm willing to bet most of us have these positive memories associated with the store. At
So this is the DVD days too. I was back in the VHS days. That's how old I am.
the time, it was the best way to get movies. Sure, you can go to the store and buy them at an outrageous price. You could wait until something came on TV or pay for the movie channels and increase your chances of something
It was a
coming
long
on.
time you had to
And
wait.
there were many competing movie rental stores such as Family Video and Hollywood Video.
Okay, so I never really went to Hollywood Video, but like the Family Video, the mom and pop stores, they had a little section in the back. It said adults only and how it had a curtain. So I never knew what was behind that curtain. If somebody knows, let me know.
But they just didn't compare. Personally, whenever I would go to one of those other stores, I just didn't get that same feeling as being in a Blockbuster. Like they were just cheap
I feel like Hollywood Video, weren't they a retail spot by the end of their days? I think I remember them, and you could go in and buy CDs and stuff too. Maybe I'm wrong.
imitations. There's no doubt about it. Blockbuster was the place for movie rentals.
Yes, it was.
The company started in 1985. It wasn't long before that when most people didn't even have a VCR. The company expanded fast, and by the time the 1990s came around, Blockbuster was pretty much the standard for video rentals. It's a decent business idea. Buy a bunch of VHSs and rent them to people until you recover your cost. And once you're done renting it out, just sell it.
Yep.
They would buy them in bulk and have the benefits of some substantial discounts as well. And if the cost did get too high, they would work out revenue sharing deals with the studios. There's definitely opportunity to make a profit.
I mean, what did it cost Blockbuster? Which I guess if you had 40 or 50 copies of it, and you had to, they recoup their money quick, guaranteed.
Not to mention, they did the exact same thing with video games. And the rentals weren't their only source of revenue. I took these numbers from 2003. Just randomly so I have some figures to illustrate what I'm saying. The rentals brought in about 77% of their revenue.
Merchandise.
22% was from merchandise and about 1.5%.
Now, given this is 2003, I don't even remember Blockbuster being around at that point, but could be wrong.
0.5% is from other. What is merchandise and what is other? Merchandise is the movie and game sales.
There we go. Okay.
Not rentals, but sales, which is about 70% of it. And the other 30% is general merchandise, meaning the popcorn or the milk duds or anything else they sell in the store. And what's the other portion of revenue? I'm not sure. There always seems to be a mysterious other category, but it's a small percentage. It's all a cool idea.
Now we're working. I don't remember a lot of people buying candy when they would rent the movies. I don't know.
It's a good business model for its time. In fact, it was a fantastic business model. So when did the transition happen? When did they stop being that beloved video store and start being nothing but a late night punchline?
I can tell you exactly what it was. Netflix came out, right? And not the Netflix that everybody knows now. Okay. This was, you get on there and you ordered like a movie, like or two, and they mail it to you. And then you could get your next one in line, but they wouldn't send it to you until the original one came back. Blockbuster actually started doing it about a year later, maybe longer, I don't remember, but they were just late to the show. It was over with by then.
Looking at their revenue and number of store locations, it appears that around 2004, 2005 was their peak, and everything after that was downhill.
2010.
Hard to say exactly when the transition happened. I'm going to say it was somewhere in the middle of that decade when it began, but wasn't fully completed until the end of it. So here's the big question. What happened to Blockbuster? I'm guessing the answer in everyone's head right now is that Netflix happened, and I'm sure it's going to be all over the comment section. But my conclusion at the end of the video is not that. Not exactly. But Netflix did survive when Blockbuster didn't. So what we should investigate is what separates the two companies. And I'm talking about the classic Netflix, not the streaming content.
Look, it's like I'm predicting the future. I should have just made this video. All right?
But sending DVDs to your house, because that's what Netflix was during this time. They didn't start streaming until around 10 years ago. As far as I see it, there were two big differences. One is what I just said. With Netflix, the movies come to you, whereas with Blockbuster, you go to the movies.
We got lazy.
So with Netflix, it's easier for the customer, but it's also more confining. There's more freedom with Blockbuster because you can get movies at any time without having to wait for the mail. This aspect is really just a matter of personal preference.
And then what happened later is Blockbuster, obviously, if you rented the movie, you had to bring it back or you got a late fee. And these little DVDs you could keep. But I think Blockbuster went away from late fees at the end of their life.
Other big difference is that Netflix is a subscription charge where Blockbuster charges per movie. This is where Netflix has the edge. For what you pay during your weekly trip to Blockbuster, you could get a full month of unlimited rentals. So the logical thing for Blockbuster to do to compete would be to offer subscriptions for unlimited rentals at their stores.
Correct.
But it's not as simple as it sounds. In fact, none of this is as simple as it sounds. Today, people seem to look at Blockbuster as a group of boneheads that failed to see the changing climate of video rentals. That's right, I said boneheads. I'll get back to the Netflix in a second. The public seems to have this perception that Blockbuster thought in-store rentals was the only way to do business and just laughed at the idea of mail and streaming services. This isn't true. You may have heard this one before. In the year 2000, Blockbuster declined a deal to purchase Netflix for $50 million, a company that is worth billions today. But at the time, Blockbuster preferred to compete with them because they thought they could win. It wasn't that they were ignoring the business model that Netflix established, it's simply that they didn't think purchasing that company at that time was the right move. Sure, looking back, it's probably the worst decision they ever made.
I mean, worst for sure. But back then, I mean, it's even like that now, though. I mean, everybody's freaking out about the AI stuff and blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, that's just going to take over eventually.
But how were they to know it at the time? I would have completely respected their decision to pass on the deal.
Hey, there's me right there, buddy.
And I'm sure most others would too. In fact, right around the same time, they entered into a 20-year deal that involved streaming video on demand using fiber optic technology that was much more costly than it would have been to purchase Netflix. The only problem is that the deal was with Enron and the technology didn't work, and Enron went bankrupt soon after and nothing came of it. It's a deal that could have put Blockbuster a couple steps ahead of Netflix.
I did not know
Here's
this
some
part.
more evidence that
Pretty cool.
Blockbuster wasn't ignorant about the whole mail and streaming thing. In a company's annual reports filed with the SEC, they include a section that identifies possible threats to the company. In almost every year that Netflix existed, they were listed as a possible threat, as well as video-on-demand services. And in the report from 2001, they actually talk about their efforts to enter into the market by teaming up with DirecTV. So don't make the mistake of thinking that Blockbuster was just ignoring all this.
I feel like I remember the DirecTV, but it was all way too late. All this stuff he's talking about happened after Netflix. Like they didn't act fast enough. Then video game wise, you couldn't get on Netflix, I don't think. But that's when GameFly came out. I know a lot of people, we won't mention any names, but if they had like a PlayStation game that got scratched, you go to Blockbuster, you rent the game, and then return the scratched one in the box.
Aware of it and making efforts early on. But let's get back to why it's not easy to offer subscriptions like Netflix does. Those rental revenue numbers that I showed you earlier include something called late fees, something that's impossible to collect if the customer has an unlimited rental subscription. They were generating a healthy amount of income from late fees. And
now look, when I worked there, if you were nice about returning it and you were late, I didn't hit the little code that made it late. All right, I was cool. If you were a jerk, you got the late fee, baby.
Were resistant to change their structure to something that would completely eliminate them.
Oh, what you gonna complain about now?
However, in 2004, they started offering a subscription service called
2004? Who talks like that?
Blockbuster Movie Pass. And beginning the next year, they announced the elimination of late fees. But the thing is that if you're still renting out movies the traditional way, late fees are sort of necessary. They needed to have those movies back on time, and the motivation for the customer to do it was through the late fees. Their system was a little sketchy, where it gave the customer a grace period, and after enough time, they just said you owned it, and charged the full price of the movie.
Look, there's people we sent to collections because they had like $40, $50 in late fees. Collections.
Eventually, they tried to enter every market. At the end of 2006, they launched Blockbuster Total Access, which was another online subscription service that allowed customers to check out multiple movies at a time.
All right, so they did have games and Blu-ray, okay. But I don't remember, I mean, I remember this, but I didn't know anybody that had it.
They could go through the mail just like Netflix, or exchange them at any Blockbuster store. It gained a lot of subscribers initially, but quickly went down. It was more expensive than Netflix, and I suppose the convenience of exchanging the movies in-store wasn't worth the extra money for the customer. They even tried Blockbuster Express, which was
I was just thinking, it just hit me. Remember Redbox? I know there's still some out there. But that was another kind of in-between gap kind of deal where you could go pick it up and you go bring it back. Same thing happening with the, no, what was the scam with that? I know somebody else that did that. I think he's on his way to China right now. You would go get a prepaid Visa and put like $5 on there because it was like $1.99 a night on Redbox. So they would use the $5 prepaid Visa, swipe the card, get the movie, and never bring it back. They couldn't charge your card more than $5 by the end of it.
DVD rental kiosk like Redbox, which
Oh,
eventually ended
I'm telling you, I'm Nostrafreaking-Damus.
up in the hands of the Redbox people. In 2010, Blockbuster went bankrupt. Dish Network bought the company soon after, but haven't been able to do much with it. They've tried similar things, integrating it into their satellite service, but it seems they've basically given up. If you go to Blockbuster.com today, it's pretty vacant. Just a link to the Dish Network website and one to a list of the remaining locations.
I did not know that.
There's 12 of them, mostly in Alaska for some reason.
I think that's actually, I mean, it's 2025 now. That was 2017. I'm pretty sure if it's still open, there was only one left, and I think it's in Oregon.
As far as I can tell, Blockbuster is done. It would take some genius minds to make that name relevant again, and I doubt it would even be worth it. So here's how I see the whole situation. The whole renting movies in store and taking them home model is obsolete today. It was becoming obsolete with the DVD mail rentals, and the streaming has finished the job. The fact is that the service Blockbuster provided became useless, and the only way they would have been able to survive is changing everything.
I don't even think he talked about it earlier where you had to, if you didn't return, I mean, be kind, rewind, that whole slogan. If you didn't return the video rewound, you got a fee. I forgot about that. We used to have this little machine that did it super fast too.
And you're probably not surprised by the fact that restructuring an entire business is difficult to do. They needed to break into that video on demand and video by mail in.
Is that Shipwreck from American Pie? Is that real? Is this real a commercial or is this from the movie? That's him. Holy cow. Finch. That's his name, right? Finch.
And as we saw, they gave it a try. They tried it with Enron,
definitely him. That's
DirecTV,
crazy.
And started providing their own services.
Yeah, see, this might be from the movie.
But they didn't jump into it head first. We see this by the fact that they continued to open more stores. They were just experimenting with other services and seeing what would catch on and be profitable. They predicted that it was the way of the future, but it seems they underestimated how quickly the future came. They didn't feel the urgency to do it early on, and once they did, it was too late.
That's exactly what I just said.
But they're not exactly boneheads.
There's a young
for going
taco
about
right there.
It this way. I'm sure if I pulled you aside 15 years ago and asked you if you thought that video rental stores would be completely irrelevant in 5 years, you would have said of course not.
No way.
And that's what Blockbuster thought. But let's remember exactly what Blockbuster provided. Netflix provides movies, but Blockbuster also provided an experience. That whole experience I described earlier, that's something you don't...
Look, there is nothing like getting out of school on Friday, knowing you're going to Blockbuster, and you and your friends roll in there and grabbing that last new release that just came out, and you got the last one, and you knew the next person wasn't getting it, but you got it, baby. Oh, man. And then look, wrestling fans, obviously, you see the belts in the back. If a pay-per-view, let's say SummerSlam is in August, that sucker about December, the SummerSlam would come out on VHS at Blockbuster. And that was your only opportunity to see it. It's not like now where you can go to YouTube or wherever else and just watch all the highlights. Like you saw the results once TV and stuff came on, but you couldn't see the whole thing.
Get from Netflix or Redbox. I think of it as being like a movie theater. When you pay the $10 for the ticket, you're not just paying for the movie, you're paying for the whole experience.
Okay. First of all, I went and saw the new Superman a couple days ago. I wish the tickets were $10. I paid $47 for 2 tickets and then $42 for 2 popcorns and 2 drinks. So you ain't catching taco at a movie theater ever again.
And similar to Blockbuster, if new movies were legally able to be streamed right to people's homes, the theaters would probably become irrelevant as well. Blockbuster is
almost happened to Sandy Crawford. Oh, baby.
Changing around them. If they were able to tell the future, they probably could have started
Holy moly, I forgot about her. She had a little beauty mark right here. Oh, she was
structuring their business model early enough to have an edge on Netflix. But I can't fault them for not knowing the future. In the early 2000s, they were in a time where they needed to make changes fast. But they weren't aware of it. Few companies would have been. Some companies aren't meant to last forever, and maybe it was just time for Blockbuster to fade into the sunset. I don't like thinking of them as the joke that they've become. I prefer to remember the positive experiences.
Yep.
What I'm trying to say is to remember Shaq on the Lakers, not on the Celtics. Sure,
Still
there
the
was a
GOAT.
pretty significant decline toward the end, but there was a time in the early 2000s where there was no one better. I know there's hundreds of videos on YouTube already that use Shaq as a metaphor for Blockbuster, so I'm gonna wrap it up here.
Why
Let
would
me
they
know in
do
the
that to the
comments
GOAT?
any thoughts you have on Blockbuster.
Second.
Whether it be
Jordan,
about its
obviously,
peak,
no one.
the decline.
All right, I think it's over with. Anyways, like I said, I miss Blockbuster. Was it inconvenient to have to get in the car and go? Yes. Was it an amazing experience? Also, yes. Never going to have it again. I mean, I can see the Blockbuster still that I would go to as a kid. As soon as you came out the door, you walked down the little shopping strip, and that's where the Little Caesars was. And we picked up at Little Caesars. It didn't come in the boxes back then. It was long and like in a paper bag. It was awesome. I don't remember the name of it. I know Pizza Hut ended up copying it later. It was called the Bigfoot, but Little Caesars was the original. Okay. Blockbuster, I love you. I miss you so much. I'm very sad that my kid won't be able to experience it. Like I said, the heartbreak, the disappointment of when you got there and you were 10 minutes too late. Somebody else got the movie. It was super sad. And then sometimes you'd have to rent something you really didn't even want to see, but you wanted to see a movie so bad. And you couldn't back then. It wasn't like you go home and turn it on TV. We didn't have HBO. That was expensive. So I don't know. I'm almost a little bit sad from this movie, this video. Makes me want to cry. All right, y'all. Well, I'm going to go find out if there's still the one in Oregon because I'm going to go. Love y'all. Peace out. And I'll see y'all next time. Okay.